Welcome to Enlighten Wisdom, beloved souls. Chosen ones, you are becoming dangerously powerful in the eyes of those who once tried to control your light. Your fearlessness and independence now intimidate them deeply. They remember the old version of you, the one they mocked, underestimated, and dismissed. The one who used to over-explain, overextend, and shrink to fit into spaces that were never meant for your greatness. But something within you has shifted. You no longer need to speak loudly because your silence now carries more weight than their most boisterous words. Without saying a thing, your presence demands attention. They scramble to pretend they're unaffected, but it's too late. Their nervous glances give them away. They adjust their clothes, clear their throats, look away too quickly, then glance back again. This isn't about arrogance. It has nothing to do with ego. It's about energy, real, powerful, untouchable energy. The kind that can't be faked, borrowed, or stolen. The kind that enters a room before you do and lingers long after you've gone. The kind that commands respect without uttering a word. And the part that unsettles them the most? You're not even trying. They once had power over you, but not because they were stronger or wiser. It was because they were louder. They filled your life with chaos, subtle manipulations, and passive-aggressive jabs cloaked in false concern. Every encounter was a carefully calculated move, designed to keep you doubting yourself, constantly defending, explaining, proving. They thrived off your reaction, needed you to be emotionally involved because as long as they could drag you into their storm, they controlled the narrative. But now you don't play their game. They poke and prod, trying to provoke a reaction, waiting for you to crack, hoping you'll snap back, explain yourself, fall into another argument where they can twist your truth. But you offer them nothing. No frustration, no explanation, not even a flicker of acknowledgement. And that silence, it shakes them. They expected anger. They would have preferred rage, because anger still shows you care. It still means there's a connection, a way back in. Anger gives them fuel to manipulate, to spin. But silence is a void they can't control. So they get louder, they gossip more, hoping their words will find their way back to you. They create stories in their heads, convincing themselves that your silence means you're secretly plotting, secretly suffering, secretly wishing to return. But the truth is you're not. Your silence isn't emptiness. It is not the absence of emotion they fear. It is the presence of something far greater. It is your peace. And nothing unsettles them more than the quiet confidence of someone who no longer seeks validation. They spent so much time breaking you down, planting seeds of self-doubt, convincing you to second-guess every decision, every instinct. But what they never anticipated was that one day you would simply walk away. No dramatic exit, no final argument, no need for closure, just silence. No calls, no explanations. No attempt to correct their lies or clear your name. And in that stillness, your absence speaks louder than any words ever could. They check their phones, expecting a message that will never arrive. They bring up your name in conversations, fishing for any hint that you miss them, that you regret leaving. They linger in familiar places, imagining you might return, hoping to catch even a glimpse of the old version of you. But you never go back. You've mastered a level of detachment they cannot comprehend. Not because you hold a grudge, not out of spite or revenge, but because you've grown beyond the need to prove anything. You've outgrown the cycle, and without your energy feeding their illusions, they're left with nothing but their own reflection, and that terrifies them. You see it in their hesitation, their constant second-guessing, the way they stall and overthink even the simplest of decisions. They tell themselves they're being careful, weighing their options. But the truth is they are paralyzed by fear. Fear of failing, fear of being exposed. And then there's you, steady, certain, decisive. You move without hesitation, without waiting for permission, without caring who approves or disapproves. Your confidence confuses them. In hushed tones they ask, "How did you know? How did you know when to walk away before it all collapsed? How did you know which door was opportunity and which was a trap? How did you know who to trust, when to strike, when to be still?" They assume you have some secret, some insider advantage. And you do, but it's not what they think. It doesn't come from them. It never did. They believed they could control your destiny by withholding their support, by feeding you fear, by keeping you in the dark. They thought you needed their advice, their praise, their permission to move forward. But they underestimated the depth of your inner knowing. You're not guided by noise. You move in alignment with something deeper, something they cannot access. While they scramble, caught in endless loops of indecision, you walk forward with unwavering purpose. They mistake it for arrogance, they dismiss it as luck. But deep down, they know the truth. You are tuned in to a frequency they cannot hear. They try to sabotage you, hoping to throw you off course. They whisper lies, spread rumors, place obstacles in your path, all in hopes of breaking your stride. But nothing works, because your power does not come from their approval. It does not come from their opinions, their systems, or their rules. It comes from within. And so while they wait for signs, wait for validation, wait for someone else to hand them their future, you build yours. They talk, you act. They stall, you rise. They wonder, you know. This is what sets you apart. This is what makes them fear you. They thought you could be replaced. They assumed you'd always be there, waiting, hoping, proving your worth just to be accepted. They mocked you. They dismissed you. They cast you aside like you were nothing. But they forgot. Nothing has a way of becoming everything. And now, they watch from a distance, from behind screens, from the corners of rooms where they once held the power to humiliate and belittle you. They witness what you've become. They see the confidence in you that no longer wavers, the strength that no longer asks for permission. They see the fire in your eyes that no longer dims just to make them feel comfortable. And now they need that light. Not because they've changed, not because they truly care, but because they realize what they've lost. They never valued you when they had access to you. They never believed you would evolve beyond them. In their minds, you were supposed to stay small, stay within reach, someone they could continue to measure, manage, and manipulate. But you didn't. You grew. You expanded. You became more than they ever imagined. And though their pride won't let them say it aloud, they feel the loss deeply. They try to inch their way back into your world, but never through honesty, never with true remorse. Instead, they test the waters. They send casual check-ins, offer surface-level compliments, and hide their motives behind fake support and forced interest. They hope you'll be so touched by their sudden attention that you'll fling the doors open again as if nothing ever happened. But you remember. You remember the silence when you needed them most, the way they laughed when you were struggling, the whispers they thought you'd never hear. You remember the moments they could have stood beside you but chose to walk away. And that memory, that deep knowing, it keeps you grounded. It reminds you not to repeat the mistake of allowing them back into a place they so easily walked out of. Because something has shifted, and not just in them but in you. You no longer seek their validation. Their approval no longer holds any weight. And that reality drives them insane. They once believed they were the gatekeepers of your worth, that their acceptance determined your place in the world. But now the roles have reversed. Now they are the ones watching you. They crave your attention. They long for your energy. They hope for a sign that they still matter to you, but they don't. Because you've stopped chasing. You've stopped explaining. You've stopped opening doors for people who once slammed them in your face. And the irony is clear. The very people who once belittled you now desperately hope you'll acknowledge them. But you won't, because you've become your own source of power. And once you discovered that everything you were seeking was already within you, you saw it clearly. They never held the power. You did. You woke up. You saw the game for what it truly was. And instead of playing, you walked away. You cut the strings they used to pull so effortlessly. Now they sit on the sidelines watching you move with grace and strength. Untouchable, independent, unmoved by their tired old tactics. They hate it, not because you've hurt them, and not because you've sought revenge, but because you've become something they cannot control. And people who thrive on control always fear what they can't contain. So they whisper in corners. They throw shade. They invent new stories and spread false narratives, hoping to drag you back down to a place where they feel more comfortable, more in charge. But none of it works, because when you remove the strings, you remove their only access to your energy, your peace, your presence. And without that access, they have nothing left to hold over you. They can no longer threaten you with their absence. They can no longer manipulate you through disapproval or silence. The tactics that once chipped away at your self-worth no longer hold any power, because now you know who you are, you know your value. And that unshakable self-awareness is the greatest threat of all. In losing control over you, they didn't just lose influence, they lost everything. They try to act casual now, as if no time has passed, as if nothing was ever broken. They pretend they never left you gasping for air while they thrived in comfort. They resurrect the past, reminiscing about the so-called good old days, hoping shared memories will soften your heart and blur the clarity of why you walked away in the first place. But there's one truth they've failed to grasp. The version of you they remember no longer exists. You no longer fit inside the frame of their nostalgia. You are not the person who once begged for their attention, who sacrificed peace for proximity, who used history as a reason to hold on. That chapter is closed. You see the shift in their eyes, the moment they realize that something is different. They speak to you in familiar tones, expecting you to respond with old habits, but their words fall flat. Their inside jokes feel strained, their charm lacks depth. They are searching desperately for the old version of you, the one who would have dropped everything for them, who would have forgiven without question, who would have bent over backwards just to keep the connection intact. But that person no longer lives here. And the silence that fills the space where your old self once was, it's deafening. They returned hoping for comfort and familiarity, but what they found instead was a stranger wearing your face. They weren't prepared for this version of you. The one who doesn't need closure, who doesn't feel the urge to explain your growth, who doesn't need to reopen old wounds just to prove that healing happened. They assumed time would soften your boundaries. That absence would make you sentimental. But they don't realize. You haven't been waiting. You've been building. You've been evolving. You've been rising. And while they remained frozen in memories, clinging to a version of the past that no longer serves you, you became someone unrecognizable to them. Now they stumble, unsure how to find their way back in. They bring up the fun times you once shared, the closeness you once had, the comfort of what used to be. They try to assure you that things don't have to be awkward, but your presence alone unsettles them. Not because you are harsh, not because you hold on to resentment, but because they feel the truth. They no longer belong in your world. Not because you pushed them away, but because they never grew into the kind of person who could walk beside the person you are today. And that realization, that undeniable space between who you were and who you've become, is what speaks the loudest. It's a line they can never cross, the distance between who you were and who you've become. So let them stand in the doorway of your past, longing for a version of you that no longer exists. Let them reach for something that will never return. But you, don't look back. The past is gone, buried, and you have no desire to resurrect it. There was a time when you ran. You ran toward people who barely acknowledged you. You chased opportunities that made you beg, situations that drained you more than they ever fulfilled you. You were always the one reaching, for love, for respect, for success, for recognition. Always striving, always proving, always hoping. But something shifted. You stopped. You stopped running, stopped explaining, stopped forcing doors open that were never meant to be yours. And in that stillness, something miraculous unfolded. What was truly meant for you began to arrive effortlessly. You no longer had to chase it. The very absence of your energy became more powerful than your constant presence ever was. Because when you were chasing, they overlooked you, they downplayed your worth, they treated your effort like noise. But now, in your silence, they hear you more clearly than ever. They feel your absence like an echo that won't fade. And that silence, it speaks volumes. They whisper among themselves, puzzled. They wonder what changed. They see things aligning for you, effortlessly. They watch from the shadows, eyes filled with confusion, questioning how doors that were once locked shut are now opening for you without resistance. They struggle while you rise, not because you got lucky, not because you had help, but because you stopped wasting your time chasing what was never worthy of your light. You're not rising because of them. You're rising despite them. You no longer seek their validation, their networks, or their approval, and that realization terrifies them. Deep down, They always believed you needed them, that you were powerless without their acceptance. But now they see the truth. You were never powerless. You simply hadn't aligned yet. And alignment? It changes everything. There is no competition in alignment. The right people, the right opportunities, the right paths, they find you now. Not because you demanded them, not because you pleaded, but because your energy has become magnetic. You've become the kind of person whose presence alone commands the very things you used to chase. And now those who once ignored you are scrambling. They circle back, pretending they've always believed in you, always supported you. They drop hints trying to reconnect. They remind you of who you used to be, hoping you'll shrink down to fit their limited view of your potential. But you're not that person anymore. You've outgrown the need to prove anything to anyone. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't explain, you attract. And that truth, that quiet power, they can't handle. It disrupts everything they believed about you. You didn't need their validation. You needed to remember who you were. And now that you have, there's no going back. They will never truly understand. They'll look at you, perhaps even smile politely, but beneath that surface lies a weight they carry, the unbearable heaviness of their own wasted potential. You were once standing shoulder to shoulder with them. You shared the same space, felt the same pressures, and navigated the same limitations. There was a time when your paths were parallel, your struggles identical. But then came the moment that separates those who rise from those who stay rooted in fear. When that moment arrived, you moved. You took the risk. You stepped into the unknown. And they didn't. Instead, they stayed behind, wrapped in comfort, clinging to what was familiar. They chose safety over growth, excuses over effort. They convinced themselves that transformation was too difficult, that evolving would cost too much, that change was something reserved for the fortunate or the bold. Every time they see you now, they don't just see a person, they see a mirror reflecting everything they could have been. It's not you they hate. It's the undeniable truth that you represent. You are living proof that they had a choice, that the limitations were never external but internal, that no one held them back but themselves. They could have grown with you. They could have elevated. They could have expanded their world, broken through old barriers, stepped into a higher version of themselves. You never stopped them. Life never stopped them. They stopped themselves. And now, they sit with the quiet ache of regret, dressed in resentment, whispering in corners, hoping you stumble, because your success feels like a spotlight on their inaction. They want to see you fall, not because they truly wish you harm, but because your rise reminds them of their refusal to try. But here's the truth. They are not your responsibility. Their stagnation is not your burden. Their bitterness is not your business. Your journey has always been your own. You chose yourself. You chose growth. You chose freedom. And that, more than anything, is the one thing they may never forgive. Not because you hurt them, but because you proved they had no excuse. Take a moment to look around your life now. Everything in it is intentional. Every decision, every boundary, every leap forward. It's all been built with purpose. You no longer exist in survival mode. You've stepped into freedom. There are no toxic ties chaining you down. No financial traps draining your spirit. No unnecessary noise clouding your peace. They try to disturb you, to provoke you, to shake your sense of stability. But there are no cracks to exploit. What they once used as weapons, guilt, manipulation, doubt, no longer reach you. You've outgrown every one of them. Your peace is not accidental. Your clarity is not luck. This is the result of discipline, healing, and relentless self-respect. This is what happens when you stop shrinking for people who refuse to grow, when you release distractions, cut off dead weight, and commit to living life on your own terms, not at the mercy of anyone else's expectations. They want to rattle you, but they can't even reach you. They act as if you don't matter, yet they monitor your every move. They call you arrogant, yet they study your confidence like a blueprint. They pretend not to care, yet they ask about you in whispered conversations. They wait for signs of weakness, some evidence that you've fallen, that you've regressed back into the version of you they once had power over. But every time they look for brokenness, they find strength. Every time they expect chaos, they see growth, and it eats at them from the inside out. They resent the admiration rising in their own chest when they witness your glow. They hate how, no matter how much they try to diminish you, their own lives feel dimmer in comparison. But their whispers hold no weight. Because while they talk, you move, while they stall, you build, while they wonder, you create. And the truth is, you never sought revenge. You never needed to. The people who tried to break you, betray you, belittle you, they are now unraveling. Not because you exposed them, not because you retaliated, but because their own actions are finally too heavy to bear. The karma they never believed in is quietly showing up at their doorstep, not as punishment, but as truth. And you keep rising. They thought they could break you. They thought their betrayals, lies, and manipulation would crush your spirit, unravel your identity, and leave you lost in pieces. But the only thing that truly shattered in the end was their illusion of control. They underestimated the depth of your resilience, the sacred fire within you that never stopped burning, even in your darkest hour. Every scheme they orchestrated, every rumor they whispered, every move they made against you, it's all circling back now, haunting them, exposing them, weighing down their conscience like bricks in a collapsing house. And you remain untouched. Not only did you survive, you rose, elevated, untouchable, unbothered. Now they're left watching you from a distance. Silent spectators behind screens, behind fake smiles, behind bitterness they don't know how to hide. They wait, hoping you'll lash out, hoping you'll retaliate, hoping you'll acknowledge their hidden suffering. But what they don't understand is that you've already moved on. You no longer need justice to come from confrontation. You no longer seek closure in chaos. Your healing didn't require their apology, and your elevation didn't need their permission. And that truth, that quiet, grounded power, that's what haunts them the most. Because your rise was never about revenge. Their downfall wasn't something you orchestrated. It was the natural result of the harm they caused. You were never meant to be ordinary. You didn't come here to blend in, to be tolerated, or to live under anyone's thumb. You came here to break patterns, to rewrite legacies, to awaken. And every single attempt they made to weaken you only sharpened your spirit. Every rejection became a redirection. Every betrayal became a portal to deeper wisdom. Every sleepless night, every silent tear, every moment of isolation carved something eternal into your soul. You didn't just grow, you were forged in fire. And what emerged is unshakable. This strength, this peace, this clarity, it's not conditional, it's not performative, it's not borrowed. It is yours, and it is permanent. They assumed you were struggling in silence, crawling through the wreckage they left behind. But you were never in ruins, you were in restoration, you were rebuilding. Not the version of you they tried to destroy, but the version of you they were never meant to meet. The version that doesn't flinch when tested, doesn't beg to be understood, doesn't shrink to be accepted. And now you stand firm, tall, and undefeated. You've become everything they told you couldn't be. And while they sit in circles, whispering about your growth, watching your glow from the sidelines, you keep rising, without apology, without hesitation. They wait in vain for signs that you're still the same. That deep down, the old version of you still exists, the one who could be controlled, manipulated, or made to feel small. But that person is gone, and they will spend the rest of their lives looking for someone who no longer lives in this timeline. You don't owe them a response. You don't owe them recognition. They will die waiting for a breakdown that will never come. You were never meant to be stopped, and this moment in your life, it isn't luck. It's not a coincidence. It's not the universe showing you favor. This is who you've always been. The world is finally seeing it, but you've known it all along. So let them whisper. Let them doubt. Let them throw stones from glass houses and project their insecurity through gossip. Let them tell themselves stories to feel better about their choices. You are no longer trying to be seen by those who refuse to look. You're no longer seeking validation from those who denied your value. You have nothing left to prove. Not to them, not to anyone. They wanted your downfall. They wanted to watch you unravel. Instead, they got front row seats to your ascension. The very people who tried to dim your light are now blinded by your radiance. And the truth is, they can't look away. They can pretend you're not on their minds, but your name still lingers in rooms they never expected you to enter. They keep tabs. They keep watching. But you never sought revenge. because you never had to. The people who tried to break you are being broken by their own choices, not because you fought back, not because you exposed them, but because the weight of their own actions is finally crushing them from the inside out. So ask yourself, have you felt this shift in your own life? Have you witnessed the moment when the people who once tried to hold you down began to watch you rise? Share your experience below, because your very existence is a reminder that no matter how much they tried to stop you, you were always destined to rise. Their worst fear has already come true. You are untouchable. That's all for today. Dear Father, I pray for the growth of my faith. Help me trust you even when physical evidence is lacking. Let me believe in your perpetual presence, knowing you will never harm me. I understand that your thoughts for me are thoughts of prosperity and not harm, to give me a good future. Thank you, gracious and eternal Father, for always listening to my voice. I offer up this prayer to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, for your love and provision. I am grateful for your presence in my life and the abundance you bring. If this video resonated with you, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with those who need to hear this message. Leave a comment below about your journey and how you are preparing for your own triumphant return. If you'd like to support our work, please consider contributing through Buy Me a Coffee. This helps us continually improve our content to offer you the best. The link to Buy Me a Coffee is in the description. No gift is too small. Whether it's a penny, a prayer, or a share, your generosity helps spread God's word and brings hope to others. Don't stop here. Watch our next video for powerful revelations about the signs that reveal you are the chosen one. We've enjoyed following this spiritual journey with you. Thank you for staying with us until the end. Keep shining brightly and embrace your destiny with courage. See you next time. Blessings to all the beautiful souls from the Enlighten wisdom.